just want to make an announcement before you get your questions. First of all, we're going to be drawing for our October raffle after we finish these questions. We have our silent auction, which we will close. And now I'm going to let the governor answer questions.
We will be quick and brief because I know you all have schedules to move on to. Anything? Comments, criticism, input? We take it all as politicians. Yes, sir.
Would John Bolton have a place in your administration?
Now, why do you ask that?
We need him.
You hate him.
We need him.
Oh, you need him. He's great. I've known John Bolton for a long time. I think well of John Bolton. But I'm not going to start speculating about people who serve in the administration at this point. We've got work to do to win this primary. And then we'll make decisions beyond that. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Your statement about Afghanistan sounds a bit scary isolationist. Where do you think that we stand in terms of defending our position across the world in terms of military?
I think our two most compelling national security interests from here for this country will be, number one, economics. And that will be based on free trade and international economic engagement with countries who want to reform and open up. And that will play right back to strengthening our economy here, strengthening our core, and creating jobs. Number two, I think the most compelling national security priority for this country will be counterterrorism. And that will be right-sizing in Afghanistan to make sure that we meet the needs of an asymmetric counter-terror effort, as opposed to 100,000 boots on the ground who are involved in nation building. And I believe that's the kind of presence we're going to need in different corners of the world. We need to recognize our 21st century realities. We're still a little top-heavy as a nation, from even the overhang of the Cold War. I mean, I look at Germany and I say, 50,000 troops still in Germany. I say, ladies and gentlemen, the Russians aren't coming anymore. We need to face the facts that we're in the 21st century. And I think our two most compelling needs will be economics. When are we going to learn that our foreign policies should be driven by economic policy? That which helps us right here creating jobs and stabilizing that core. And number two, counterterrorism. And then you're going to have countries like Israel who are going to stand up and say, those are our primary interests as well. Let's strengthen and fortify the alliance that we've got. And you'll have countries like India that will stand up and say, we can relate to that too. And then we can begin building our alliances and our friendships, or strengthening those that already exist around those two primary points. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we've paid a high price over the last 10 years. This nation has given its all. And you know, all I want to say about that is I was reminded earlier today, a question came in a while ago, what was the hardest thing you ever did as governor? The hardest thing I ever did as governor, they think you're going to answer about, with respect to some policy initiative or some legislative about. The hardest thing I ever did as governor, when I visited Kabul, Afghanistan, to visit our forward deployed troops who were there. You know, as governor, you're commander-in-chief of the National Guard. And we had a lot who were serving over in Afghanistan. This was about 4 years ago. The day that I got to Kabul, I was alerted by the embassy that one of our National Guardsmen had been shot and killed the day before. Second Lieutenant Scott Lundell, I'll never forget his name, on the Pakistan border. And would I be willing to speak at his memorial service that night? Now, I never met Scott Lundell. Never met Scott Lundell. One of the hardest things I had to do was to stand in that auditorium with hundreds of uniformed soldiers in front of me, dirty and bedraggled from the day's work. And I eulogized this man I'd never met. I thanked him for his service. I thanked him and through him his family for giving the ultimate sacrifice. And then I collected his personal belongings. And I took them all the way home to Utah. He had a Bible. He had letters from his kids. He had a few tokens from military service, and I took them home. And I took that bag to his wife's home. And I knocked on the door with my adjutant general, a 2-star from the Army. She answered the door with 4 kids. And I handed over the personal belongings and I said, on behalf of a grateful state and nation, we thank you for having given the ultimate sacrifice. And I handed over his personal belongings. And I was reminded then, as I'm reminded every day of my life, that we've got kids without parents. We've got single moms and dads as a result of our 10-year commitment. Now, obviously, the war on terror has been very important for this country. But make no mistake about what this country has given. We have given our all in this war on terror. And now it is time for this country to right-size our presence in Afghanistan and make sure that we recognize the asymmetric counter-terror threat that exists not only there, but exists in a lot of other corners of the world. And we're going to have to meet it head-on. Not through nation building, but through counter-terror work. Thank you. We'll take one more and then we'll let you go. Yes, sir.
Governor, I'd like to thank you for your bravery in pointing out that we need a new national security strategy, one that is not bankrupting America, one that's indicating that the global policing, nation-building approach is not defending national security. I want to turn to energy. We spend, in New Hampshire, we spend about $3 billion a year importing fossil fuels that we can't produce here. We don't have it, we won't have it. And my question is I know you back a level playing field energy. Would you back bringing all the hidden costs, the hidden subsidies for fossil fuels that we can't produce here into the cost of fossil fuels, such as lung disease, premature mortality, storm disasters, subsidies, tax subsidies, such that our energy sources that we have here, like wind and biomass, we can produce those and compete on a level playing field? Would you bring those hidden subsidies into the cost so that all energy sources can compete on a level playing field?
Thank you for the question. My energy policy calls on us drawing from all the options we have available to us, and we have them in great abundance in this country. First of all, we need to level the playing field by phasing out subsidies and the corporate welfare. I mean, you look at our tax code and you look at how bunched up it has become over many, many years and what it costs people to comply with our tax code these days. And I say clear it out, lower the rate, create a level playing field for one and all, and I think for the energy sector that would be very, very important. We all know that at some point we're going to be drawing a whole lot more from the sun and from the wind. That's inevitable. Everybody wants to do that at some point, but we have made a mistake by trying to subsidize things too quickly when they're not ready for the marketplace. So you force technologies into the marketplace where they're not ready, and they fail. And I'm saying that the business community, science and technology, will continue working on technologies that will draw from the sun and draw from. That's inevitable. What I want to make sure I do as president is that we're able to draw from some products that I would call transitional products, bridge products like natural gas, that will allow us to move from the here and now into the future. That might be 20 years, it might be 25 years before we have viable technology that allows us to do what all of us know we can do from a science and technology standpoint. I think we ought to be drawing from that which we have in such abundance.
But I'm wondering about taking the hidden subsidies, the premature mortality, the lung disease, and putting those into the price.
If you take out subsidies, and as businesses have to deal with the reality of whether a hydrocarbon-based economy or what, all those prices are going to have to be factored in at some point. So I say you start by phasing out the subsidies and let the costs stand on their own. I think that would be a very, very good place to start. But the energy policy, we all need to get our heads around, because for 8 presidents, starting with Nixon, who said, 38% imported oil, this is a crying shame. We're not going to let this get any higher. Carter takes over. 40% imported oil. I'm going to create the Department of Energy to ensure that this doesn't get any higher. And here we sit at 60% imported oil. But let's talk about some of the fully loaded costs. We go to the gas pump and we pay $4 or $4.50 or whatever it is for a gallon of gas. Take a look at the fully loaded costs. So the Milken Institute out of Los Angeles, they're a great quantitative shop, they do terrific quantitative analysis. They will say when you factor in the deployment costs, when you factor in keeping the sea lanes open for the importation of oil, by the way, the Europeans derive a benefit from that as well. When you factor in the terminaling and storage and handling costs, it's not $3 or $4 or $5 a gallon, it's $13 a gallon. If Americans were to stop and just do the math and figure out what it costs this country on a fully loaded basis, they'd be running for cover. They say that $300 billion transfer of wealth from the United States to countries that are dangerous and unpredictable, those days are over. I mean, those days have got to be over. We've got to move toward energy independence. It can be done. And I believe it's the will of the people in this country to move us in that direction as quickly as possible. Thank you all so very much. May God bless the United States and the great state of New Hampshire. Thank you all.
Rick has something he wants to do in 30 seconds. Rick, where are you?
I'm right here.
Okay. Governor, don't go down.
Don't go down, Governor. Governor, thank you for coming to Grafton County. Of course. If you really want to see the epicenter of Grafton County, you get on that road right out front and you drive about 45 minutes up to Haverhill Bath. And if you want to really see something there, you can go to the bridge. I'm not talking about the Bath Bridge. I'm talking about the Ray Burton Memorial Bridge. So we want to thank you from the area of Haverhill Bath. We have an orchard up the Windy Ridge Orchard, and there's some pumpkin butter. That's right. Thank you.
This is terrific.
Thank you, Governor.
Grok TV.